Well, Mayuresh Joshi joins us as well to give us his view on a whole host of stocks. Hi, Mayuresh. Good afternoon. NBCC, what's the view out there? Last few days it's been doing quite well. A few years ago they promised, but they didn't deliver. This time around, do you think they will?
Yeah. Afternoon, Nigel. So I think two aspects. One, I think the order book has always been robust for NBCC. So I think to that extent, when you talk about revenue visibility, as far as the order book is concerned, it does provide a very, very reasonable amount of comfort on that level. The second element in terms of execution, I think that is where I think the street is a little bit apprehensive because over the past few quarters, execution has been below par, and therefore the kind of margins that this company posts. Anyway, it's a low margin business in terms of both the PMC and the other business that they operate out of. So I think the low margin business with execution probably just getting delayed adds on to working capital woes, and that probably drags down return ratios as well. So yes, I think order wins probably a sentimental impact onto the stock, whether they'll be able to execute it or not. I think still remains the paramount question. Out of the broader markets, we just leave one alphabet out. I think NCC is something that we like. Our own take is that a very strong order book and revenue visibility, expectations of good margins, and management very, very hopeful in terms of execution on the top line as well as the bottom.
Yeah, I think NCC has been strong as well. Even through this market volatility, NCC has been holding up. Mayuresh, I wanted to ask you about Vedanta Limited as well. There's a dividend that comes up, and the record date is on the 7th, so it'll go ex tomorrow. So effectively, today is the last date to buy it if you want to get that dividend of 20 rupees 50 paise. What's your view on the stock? The stock is moving to the high point of the day. Business-wise, it looks pretty okay. The only problem is you're unsure what the promoter entity will do next. Your view?
Oh, absolutely, I think, and that is where I think a lot of participants on the street have their doubts on, Nigel. What probably happens on the global parent in terms of capital raise is going to be extremely critical as far as Vedanta is concerned. All these factors, I did go through your piece, well put out by you, Nigel, and I think it's very well laid out in terms of the actionable that one wants for a quick trade. However, I think from a fundamental perspective, what the parent really does, the bond prices have probably come off at this juncture when you talk about how Vedanta bond prices are trading on global bourses. And therefore, in this commodity cycle, which is expected to be muted for a better part of this financial year, earnings might also stay muted, which probably means that return ratios might get impacted. Again, I think a large part of the dividend from Inzing has been accounted for. So I think the repetition of that dividend looks very unlikely in the next fiscal.
Okay, Mayuresh, hi, good afternoon. From the basket of stocks that you like, perhaps, what looks like a good buy right now? If this market is maybe trending higher and looks like on a valuation parameter, the market has reached a bottom, then what are the 2 or 3 stocks that one should be looking at now?
Sure. Afternoon, Sonia. I think out of the broader markets on our buy watch list, we've got 2 or 3 names. One obviously is Data Patterns. We've obviously been speaking about BDL, VEL. But the kind of order book that Data Patterns has in excess of 800 odd crores, I think it gives solid revenue visibility going forward. The second element in terms of margin performance itself, gross margins expected to remain in that 67-70% kind of a bad EBITDA margins, 33-35 odd percent. They've done a revenue CAGR of almost 34-35 odd percent consistently over the past few quarters, and ROEs stay about 23%. So most parameters that we look on the OD lens, Sonia, absolutely get covered by Data Patterns. So this is one stock that we keep on our buy watch list. The second stock from the infrastructure space is VATech Wabag. Obviously, it's a little bit conditional because it needs to cross that key pivot levels on the OD lens at 375. But a large element in terms of a stable order book, more than 14,000 crores, 11% in terms of standalone margin, console margins at 10 odd percent, showing improvement, working capital days coming down to 90, and expectations in terms of further improvement going forward. I think this is one stock that can be on your radar. The third one can be CCL products. Management given solid commentary in terms of volume growth, 20-25% expected in the coming fiscal, expecting 20-21% in terms of margin profile going forward. The B2C business, especially continental coffee, expected to grow exponentially going forward. And its Vietnam operations will aid volume growth going forward. So a few of the names that should be on your buy watch list.
Right, Mayuresh, finally, before we let you go and take a short break, just wanted your thoughts on Godrej Consumer. That stock's moved to the high point of trade. Sometime during midday, it came out with its 4th quarter update. Not looking particularly bad. In fact, it's a good update coming in on all fronts. The India business, the Indonesia business, also margins improving for them. Your thoughts on this stock?
Good update, Mangalam. And again, I think a double-digit volume and value growth in personal care and home products as well. Two things, I think we just released a report yesterday in terms of leaders and laggards. FMCG is standing out to be one of the leading sectors at this juncture. Above all moving averages, and most stocks are probably doing the right stuff that is expected. Inflation in terms of input costs or the input cost inflation expected to remain very benign going forward for most of these players. And therefore, I think the expected performance in terms of reasonable volume growth, led price recovery, should probably have better earnings growth. I think the only risk element out here is the El Nino, Mangalam. I think if that probably plays out, you might have a tough first half for these players. And then I think the entire recovery probably gets pushed to the second half. But as a sector, I think one of the leading sectors on the only lens.